In our last session, we saw that Jesus was riding into Jerusalem, riding on a donkey's colt, and this amazing pageantry and celebration of the coming king, the triumphal entry of the king entering his capital, and the people ecstatic, waving their palm branches. Matthew goes on from this encounter and follows it immediately in verses 12 to 17 of chapter 21 with the account of Jesus clearing the temple. Jesus goes into the temple, and you can imagine the excitement, the exuberance of the crowds, the momentum of crowds of people. We see on the news where when you get this crowd mentality where there's this surge and it's almost unstoppable, and Jesus is riding into Jerusalem on this surge of popularity. And the first thing he does, according to Matthew, is he goes into the temple and he overturns the tables of the money changers and he drives them out of the temple. What is going on? Why is this such a significant thing? Why does this happen at this point? To help us to understand something of the significance of this, we have to look first of all at the design of the temple. When this temple, which is often called Herod's temple, was designed, it had a huge area outside of the temple in the very centre that was called the Court of the Gentiles. And the purpose of this Court of the Gentiles was to allow foreigners, people who were not Jews, people who were not believers in Yahweh, to be able to enter in and discover Yahweh for themselves. It was meant to be a place where they could come and inquire of God. If you like, it was a place of evangelism, a place where the person of God could be preached, that people would come to salvation. And what you have here is this place of access, this place of drawing close, had actually become a marketplace. What was supposed to be a place of serious worship and of outreach had actually become a place of chaos where these barriers were there. Can you imagine trying to come and ask questions about God and have all this noise and rabble and chaos going in? No wonder the God who desires a relationship with people had walked in there and was angry and called it a den of robbers. What we also need to understand is at the time there was in effect two high priests. There should only really have been one. There could only ever be one high priest. And at the time of this encounter, at the time of Jesus' Passion Week, the high priest is someone called Caiaphas, who was appointed by Valerius Gratus in AD 18. Caiaphas was the son-in-law of Annas, and Annas had been appointed high priest by Quirinius in AD 6, the same Quirinius that we read in the account of the birth of Jesus. And Annas was deposed by the same Valerius Gratus in AD 15, who's appointed Caiaphas. But in reality, Annas is still the power behind the throne of the high priest, because he was Caiaphas' father-in-law. And the high priests before Caiaphas were also relatives of Annas. And so what you have is Annas, this powerful picture behind the high priesthood, who are responsible for what happened in the temple. And what you had was a corrupt system. It was a system that, since Ananias III had been deposed by the Romans in 175 BC and then executed in 170, the high priesthood for the Israelites had almost become a political appointment by the Romans, and they were appointing people for a period of 1 year. There was an assigned period of rule. But clearly, if you had the money to bribe, you could extend your rule. And this is what was happening with Annas. He came from the Sadducee aristocracy, and he was rich, and he was ambitious, and he had political astuteness. And his wealth came from what was called the 4 booths of Annas. Those 4 booths were 4 market stalls that earned him a lot of money. and they were on the Mount of Olives and in the temple courts, and they owned a monopoly on the selling of sacrificial animals, because only pure sacrificial animals could be used in the temple. So you had to buy your sacrificial animals from these booths of Annas. And they also had a monopoly on the currency, because you could only trade in the temple with the temple currency, and that was under the control of the booths of Annas. So Annas, this high priest, the power behind the throne, has a monopoly of what's going on in the marketplace. And when Jesus goes in, what he's actually doing is he's calling out Annas. He's confronting Annas, this high priest, who should be running the temple as a place where people can come and discover a relationship with God, and instead he's using it for his own gain. Jesus quotes Isaiah 56 verse 7, and if you read Isaiah 56 verses 6 and 7, you see that Isaiah is saying that there's a blessing on the foreigners who are committed to wanting to know God and drawing close, and as a result God will fill them with joy in the house of prayer. And so Jesus is looking at what's going on and saying, you're putting barriers up to people coming into a relationship with God. No wonder what we read later in the Passion Week story is that Jesus is arrested and taken to Annas' house. This Passion Week is time to pause. It's time to worship at this incredible heart of God that wants to make it possible for people to come into a relationship with him. I want us to pause and evaluate. Have you allowed things to get in the way, to clutter up drawing close to God? Let's come back to our song for the week, the wonder of the cross. And what we read in the words of this song are this: though my eyes linger on this scene, may passing time and years not steal the power with which it impacts me, the freshness of its mystery. May I never lose the wonder of the cross. May I see it like the first time, standing as a sinner lost, undone by mercy and left speechless, watching wide-eyed at the cost. May I never lose the wonder of the cross.